You're listening to the DC Real Estate Podcast, the podcast where we focus exclusively on all things local to the DMV area. Local investors, local knowledge, local experts. Our journey starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of the DC Real Estate Podcast. My name is Russell Brazil. I am an associate broker with Arlo Real Estate. Sorry we were off last week. Our co-host Jack Sadden got COVID unexpectedly, so he was out last week and he's out this week too. But we got one of our favorite guests, Ron Gallagher, filling in for Jack.
Hello.
And our special guest this week, we're really excited to have him. He's one of the most popular investors, I feel like, in the DC area. He's the myth, the man, the legend. You might know him as Dr. Joe, or you might know him as the Master Assassin. I'm talking about Joe Asamoah, of course.
Okay. Thank you, Russell.
You need the applause track.
Okay, well, it's
Oh, you know, do I have applause?
There you go. Okay, so thank you very much, Russell, for inviting me today. I'm looking forward to our discussion, and it should be very entertaining. Hopefully, the audience will learn quite a few things from our conversation.
Yeah, so the last time I saw you was back in October at BPCon, and as you were, that was an awesome conference, but as you were just telling me, while you were away at BPCon, you picked up your most recent rehab, and this sounds like a pretty interesting story.
Yes, so this is the latest purchase I've got. Got it in November, about a month and a half ago. Essentially, it's a very strange story. It's in Washington, D.C., in the Brooklyn neighborhood, not too far from Catholic University, between the Brooklyn Metro Station and the Fort Todd Metro Station there. It's a row house. And do you want to talk about it or just...
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that seems interesting to me is it's definitely like north of there in Riggs Park. I always think of a lot of rehabs going on, but in Brooklyn, I usually don't think of too many going on because the housing stock's not in really that bad condition in that neighborhood.
No, this one is one in Brooklyn's kind of this area. The houses were built in 1978, so it's one of the newer. For DC, that's pretty new. So it's one of the newer homes, and so there aren't a whole lot of houses that go up over there. And I was somewhat surprised when my agent called me and said that, hey, there's a listing that it looks kind of weird. It looks kind of funny. Something's going on here. And do you think I should check it out? And so I said, of course, check it out, see what's going on.
Yeah, and so it was listed as a 2-bedroom unit, right? And so there's not huge demand for 2-bedroom row houses.
Yeah, it was listed as a 2-bedroom in an area whereby they're all 3 bedrooms. And so that's the first thing. And the description on the listing was, let's just say it wasn't well written. There's no sort of attractive features there. It's just very bland and so forth. There was one photograph on the listing, which is usually a red flag that the interior isn't that good. And also the price point is like $465, I think it was, which is very reasonable, very low, in fact, for that area. So all those, those things got my agent's attention. And that's when she called me because she knew that Brooklyn is one of the areas which I was interested in. And because, it's a good area, you can get good tenants and close to shopping, recreation, transportation, all those things met my criteria. It's just that the price was way lower than I thought it would be, and the description as a 2-bedroom seemed a little off. So, working with a good agent, I think is always good because they can point these things out. I wasn't looking. She observed this and brought it to my attention. So it's always good to work with what I call deal finders, people who are out there, listening to what's going on. And every so often, if they understand your criteria, then they can bring it to your attention. Hey,
they got their ear to the ground.
Ear to the ground.
They're looking in the MLS every day, and so they're seeing the properties that maybe other people are passing on and can see something in them that isn't readily apparent to everyone else.
Yes, like
this one being listed as a 2-bedroom.
Yes,
but not really being quite a 2-bedroom.
It was a 3-bedroom, really. They just had one of the rooms. They combined 2 bedrooms into one, and therefore they made it a 2-bedroom. And the house, as I said, wasn't in the greatest condition. It was in a good area. It was also a check mark. What I look for anyway are houses in bad condition in good areas. And therefore, it gives you the more leverage in terms of improvements and value add that you can bring to the table. So you want me to continue with the story?
Actually,
do you want me to continue with the story?
Yeah.
Okay, so she contacted the listing agent. and to say, hey, essentially what's going on here. And the agent gave her the backdrop of the story. And it was a parent who used to live there. They passed away, went to their children. And so the children, it was too much for them to handle. It was kind of a mini hoarding house, a lot of stuff all over the place. And they just wanted to get out and get their money. So, which is very common. The last several houses I bought, it's been that scenario where parents have passed away, went to their children, and children, they just want out, they want the money and so forth. And I've been able to buy at least the last 4 houses that way. And so she contacted the agent. She eventually made an offer. It was listed at 465, I think it was. They made an offer after backwards and forwards of 425. So 425 was what they agreed to. I was, as you just mentioned, I was going to go to BPCon in New Orleans, so I didn't have the time to go see it. So this was based on quote unquote the only what's the right word? The only condition on the contract was that I was going to see it.
Yeah.
And therefore I would see it once I came back. So once I did see the house, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I've seen some pretty doozies. on a scale of 1 to 10, this is pretty good. Once you see through, you got to be able to see beyond the.
Yeah, so you'd mentioned it seemed like a hoarder-like situation, but so you got to be able to see past see past the dirt, see past all the stuff.
Yes. So you got to see beyond that, and so looking beyond that, I said, yeah, this has got potential here, and it had a garage. And therefore, I knew that, at least for what I do, which is the buy and hold model, and what they call the BRRRR strategy, where you keep it, and I rent to Section 8, where the rents are based on the number of bedrooms. So it had a garage, so I knew I could replace that garage with a bedroom. And the 2 bedrooms upstairs could be to 3, bring that wall back.
Was this a attached garage, or?
It's attached,
yeah. So underneath the house?
No, it's kind of weird. So you go in, turn right, and then it's on the same level as the main house, and it wasn't under the house.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to picture, because you've probably seen those ones in like sort of the Brightwood area where they're sort of go in. A lot of people turn those.
It's not one of those.
Okay,
it's not one of those. It's on the same level as your living room, dining room, kitchen.
Okay.
It's just an additional garage on the same level. So I knew I could get rid of that garage and turn that into living space. And I also knew that the basement was a pretty decent-sized basement. It had a high ceiling.
Ceiling height was already there.
Oh, yeah, it was always way
for those that don't know, in D.C., in the basements, we really need 7-foot ceilings on the majority of the ceiling height in order to create legal living space down there.
Exactly. So it had about 7.5 to 8 foot. It was pretty high ceiling. Nice. So I knew that I didn't have to dig the ground. And there was space there to where I could make at least 2 bedrooms. There was already windows there in the basement. They weren't egress windows. Egress is when, for code, in the event of a fire, you got to have 2 forms of exit, and one is usually through the door, and the other one is usually through the window. And so this one had windows in the spaces where I could make it into a bedroom. It was just one large rec room.
Yeah,
that's the basement, and I knew that there's potential there to expand or enlarge the windows to make it into egress. And I could put walls whereby I can create 2 bedrooms and also create a full bathroom. So I knew that I could turn this 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath into a 6-bedroom, 4-bath.
Yeah, so we get 2 bedrooms in the basement, additional bedroom on the main level in the garage, and then the 2 bedrooms upstairs, we're deconverting that back to the original 3 bedroom.
Yes.
So suddenly the 2 becomes a 6.
So it's a familiar theme, because my goal is the same thing, always to, anti-open concept. Let's put up some walls, make some bedrooms, and maximize the cash flow.
Well, yes. I opened up the main level, in terms of living room, dining room, kitchen.
That is definitely a distinction between the two of you. Yeah. So you want open level open concepts on the main level, which is what tenants want. Ron actually does the opposite. He encloses the dining room to make an extra bedroom on the main level.
Okay. But you wouldn't want to have necessarily a 6-bedroom anyway, right? Because you only get a little bit, it's only an incremental increase as far as the rent that Section 8 pays, but there's probably less people that have a 6-bedroom voucher, right? Does it work like that?
This is how it works, okay? And this is the aha for me. Many years ago, I've been doing this for about 35 years, okay? So when I first started, when I got into the Section 8 sort of and a revelation, because the normal stereotype is that they're going to trash your house, they destroy it, it's going to be chaos, drama, blah, 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 and so on, which is true for a lot of folks, but it's not true for all of them.
But you know what? I have mostly market rate tenants. A lot of them trash your house too, right?
It's true.
Drama as well. Yeah. So drama and trashing your house is not unique to or solely the domain of Section 8. It's just you're dealing with people, and you get the good, bad, and ugly in all people. So once I realized was that then I realized that the rents that you get is based on the number of bedrooms that you have. And so, and I have a kind of business background. So I realized that, okay, then, if I increase the number of bedrooms, then I can get more rent.
Out of the same property.
Out of the same asset. So let's say 3 of us buy this one house. It's currently 3 bedrooms. Russell keeps it as 3 bedrooms.
Which is typically what's going to be in my strategy.
Which is what most people do. Okay.
Ron's going to get 6 bedrooms.
Yeah, Ron's going to get 4. Let's say Ron adds another bedroom. Yeah. I'm just high. You know, you follow me. Just keep it simple. So you keep it as a 3. Ron says, I think I can add another bedroom. He makes it to a 4. I say, I think I got 2 bedrooms, and I make it to a 5. So 3 of us buy the same house, but we get 3 different rents. Yeah. Okay. So if you buy it and left it as a 3 bedroom, you probably break even. If you buy it as a 4 bedroom, you may get a little bit of cash flow. But now if I make it into a 5 bedroom, I get decent cash flow. So
you're squeezing out a lot more cash flow out of the same asset, just using a different strategy.
Yeah, and the only thing different is that I'm renting to one family. Okay, just one family. And so the question becomes, are there enough people that have 4, 5, and 6 bedroom vouchers?
Right.
You know, to make it worth your while.
That was my question. Is there your vouchers are based on, like, you have a 6 bedroom voucher, but there probably isn't that many. Right.
So yeah, is the demand?
You have to make a decision. Yeah. Like going to 5 bedrooms, that's probably a no-brainer. But going to 6 might be the tipping point where you say, no, I'll hold back to 5 because there are more 5-bedroom vouchers.
So it's supply and demand. Obviously, there are more people with 3 than there are 4. There are more people with 4 than there are 5.
Right.
There are more people with 5 than there are 6. But the question: are there enough people with 6 to make it worthwhile? Okay. Now, if there's only one person holding DC with a 6-bedroom voucher, and that person is happy where they are, then you got a problem if you have a 6-bedroom house because there's no demand for it. Okay. But there are enough people who have 6-bedroom vouchers. Okay. And the problem in DC is that there aren't any 6-bedroom houses because they don't exist. Okay. But there are quite a number of people who have 6-bedroom vouchers. So those folks can't find any 6-bedroom houses, and therefore they have to go to a 5 or to a 4.
And then it's actually kind of interesting because not only is there not very many 6-bedroom houses, but there's so few that DCRA or DCHA actually doesn't actually publish the 6-bedroom Section 8 rent schedule. Exactly. They only tell you up to 5 bedrooms.
Exactly.
So I had no idea there was a 6-bedroom schedule until you told me. I think we were looking
15% of the 5.
Yeah, I think we were looking at one of your properties in Columbia Heights that was 6 bedrooms, and you told me that. I was like, I had no idea there was a 6-bedroom schedule.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I spoke to the folks down at the Housing Authority and said, are there enough people who have 6-bedroom vouchers to make it worth my while? No, I did it the other way. Which group of people have the hardest time finding something? Follow me? So that's the way I twisted it. And I said, what about the people with 1-bedroom vouchers? There's plenty of those around. You know, they've got apartments left, right, and center. What about the people with 2? They don't usually have a problem. 3, they're okay, but it's harder. 4, whoa, they have a hard time. 5, they have a really hard time. 6, forget it. Okay, that's essentially what they said. So for me, from a business perspective, I didn't want to compete with a crowd. I wanted to be in a space whereby there's no competition.
When you throw a 6-bedroom out there, there's no one else with a 6-bedroom. All those applicants are coming to you, and then you can choose the best applicant.
Exactly. And that's essentially what the business model is to have a product that's in high demand but low supply.
And wouldn't a 6-bedroom infer that it's a family, right? Like,
yes,
that's going to stay there longer than,
exactly. And that's where I think our models differ, is that I cater to families.
You have no turnover. Ron has a lot of turnover.
Yeah, I mean, just because my demographic is 20-something, moving to DC, they're getting their first job, they're paying for $800 bedroom, and then in 2 years, their living situation, they're going to get pay raises, and they're going to get to know the city, and they're going to get an apartment with their friend or whatever.
Exactly. So my model is slightly different. What I've learned is that as a landlord investor, I don't want turnover, because turnover is the biggest expense, hands down, in terms that, you got to clean the house, you got to paint it again, you got no money coming in. It's very, very stressful. It's very time consuming. I just didn't want that, because I was working full time, when I was doing this. So I just didn't want that drama. And I realized that for houses, especially when you have children, because children act like an anchor. Once they're in, the parents don't usually want to yank them out.
They don't want to take them out of the schools.
Yeah. Right.
They have neighborhood friends.
Exactly. It's so once the kids are in there, parents don't usually flippantly, I'm going somewhere today. I'm going to another area. I'm going to another house. They tend to be less transient. And so with voucher holders, what I realized is that their choices, a lot of the landlords that cater to voucher holders, I don't want to stereotype, but typically they have crappy housing, crappy areas.
They're more of the slumlords.
Yeah.
So I was looking at this two unit in Bloomingdale just this past weekend, and it had voucher holders in there, and I'm actually surprised that it passed DC's rental inspection checklist, because the place was a dump.
Yeah.
That's what's typically being offered to that demographic of people, is a crappy housing supply. Often
it's usually crappy housing, crappy areas, and they're usually crappy landlords. That's the choices that voucher holders have. And I realized that there's this group of people, which I call tier 1 voucher holders, the Nordstrom voucher holders, I call them. These folks are not your...
Does it say tier 1 on their voucher?
No, I call it that way. Okay, goodbye. If you want a pair of shoes, you can go to Nordstrom's, you can go to Target, you can go to Dollar General. They're still shoes. So if you segment the market, you'll find that not all people are the same. And so I segmented that Section 8 market and realized this is a group of people who are no different than you and I. They just want a nice house in a nice area to rent from a nice landlord. That's what they want. There's nothing complicated. And the problem is that their needs are not being served. I took the time to understand who these people are. Who are they? What do they want? What do they not want? Where do they want to live? Where do they not want to live? Who do they want to rent from? Who do they not want to rent from? I took the time and effort to understand that. And therefore, if I had a product that meets their needs, then I'm more likely to attract them. Okay, and that's essentially the logic behind all this, is that you buy a house in a nice area, you make it nice, and these tier 1 tenants, once they come to your home, now my homes are staged, so it looks like a model home. So once they come into the home, it's like, oh my God, and you take vouchers?
It is worth mentioning, because your houses do look phenomenal. They're staged. Your wife does own a staging company, right?
Well, that's full disclosure, yeah. So I get the discount rate,
Yeah. Oh, she still charges you?
She still charges.
Hey, we've been married 28 years. Business is business. So what's it called? But again, the idea is to differentiate myself from the competition.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And so I can attract and appeal to a different type of client base.
And when you're rehabbing this properties, like you are with this one in Brooklyn right now, you're not doing some cheap facelift on it. You're putting in nice cabinets, granite countertops, nice flooring. These places, they look like any other rehab that would be resold on the market.
Exactly. I would have my thing is that if I don't want to live there, then the tier 1 tenant probably doesn't want to live there as well. And so I fixed it up in such a way that I wouldn't have a problem living there myself at all. Okay, so I tend to go a little bit more on the renovation. But you may say, well, why are you doing? You don't, because the rents is based on the number of bedrooms. So adding granite countertops and stainless steel doesn't get you any more rent. Adding another bedroom does, but not adding the fixtures. You follow me? So the question may be, well, why are you doing that? Because you're not getting there's no direct correlation between that expense and a rent increase. Okay. And the reason why I do it is that, again, once the customer comes in, the tenant comes in, sees this beautiful home, which never in their wildest dreams did they think it would be open to them. Okay. They say, I've got to have this house. Okay. So what ends up happening is I get 5, 10, 15, 20 applications for each house. And therefore I can raise the screening standards to such a high level that they're not intimidated by my thorough screening because they're good people. You want to come to my house? Okay, let's go.
And every other product they're looking at that they can possibly rent is kind of run down, dumpy, hasn't been freshly painted sometimes. So they're walking into yours and they're like, oh my God, I want to live here for 10 years.
You're attracting the tier 1 voucher holders at that point.
That's the point that, that's what I'm targeting them. Okay. And because I've realized that group of people, you can run a business around them. Okay. Where they come in and they stay, so you get your 10, 15, 20. My longest tenant, her anniversary was January the 6th of this year, 25 years. Okay. On a 15-year mortgage. Okay, in the neighborhood, I bought the house for 110.
She's been in there since I was in high school.
She's been there. She's almost. Here's a kicker: is that I bought the house for 110. Okay, and houses on that block are 1.1 million. Okay, so this one lady, okay, has essentially made me $1 million in equity. I mean, when you think about this is pretty serious stuff here. All you need is a few of those, and you are done. You're done, especially in this market, the DC market, where, appreciation is a reality. The problem is the cash flow. Okay, how do you get cash flow? That's where this 4, 5, 6 bedroom comes in.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because I don't really have any Section 8 tenants, but even with my own tenants, I like to have a nicely rehabbed home as part of my strategy. And what I've personally found is my tenants will go in there and they're paying a premium on the rent to have this nice place. But what happens is a lot of my tenants stay for a long time because they are typically people that would become homeowners. But when they're looking at what they can buy out in the marketplace in their budget, they're kind of dumpy places that need to be rehabbed, need to be fixed up. So then they have to make the decision, should they become homeowners and downgrade to a worse house or stay tenants and stay living in my nicer house? Exactly. And so I end up, I have a lot of tenants that say, no, in 25 years. I haven't owned properties for 25 years, but a lot of my tenants stay a long time because I have pretty nice houses.
Well, this is... But the caveat to this is, like, let's say the house we just did in Eckington. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. We turned it into a 5, 3.5. No, 5, 3.5. Yes. So the house next door, right next door. Okay, the rent there was $3,500. Right next door,
which is pretty typical for a 3-bedroom.
It's pretty standard for a DC. You know, I took this 3-bedroom and turned it into a 5-bedroom. And the rent is $5,462, almost a $2,000 difference. Okay,
for the same property
right next door. Okay, so it's 123 Main Street and 125 Main Street. Okay, right next door. There's almost a $2,000 rent a month rent. Now, here's the thing: if I rented it to a market renter at $5,000, let's say. I mean, I wouldn't get that anyway because the market isn't $5,000. But even if I rented,
there probably would have been 42, 43 in the market rate.
It's 42, 43, whatever it is. If I rent it to a market renter, there's a pretty good chance that at some point they're going to say, "This is crazy. Let's go buy our own house." At some point,
right?
Okay. I would do the same thing. However, for a voucher holder, there's no way they're going to be buying a $600,000-$700,000 house. It's not going to happen.
Or in the case of an Eckington house, we're talking about $1 million, $1.2 million.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Okay, so they're not looking to buy the house, and on top of that, they're not paying the $5,400 anyway. The tenant's paying $400. Okay, so to them, I'm in this great neighborhood. My kids are safe. A beautiful home, model home, and I could be a part of the community. Close to metro, shopping, all this kind of stuff for $400. Okay, so now, I mean, we can debate the political side, so that's about Section 8. Why should we do that? I mean, that's not the issue. We're investors, and so the issue is if you were living in Eckington. I'm going to ask this question to both of you. Okay, if you were living in Eckington in a nice model home, okay, beautiful house, granite countertop, stainless steel, and you were paying $400,
I'd never leave.
how long would you stay there?
I hate moving, so I would never move. The last time I moved, I said I will die in this house because I hate the process of moving.
I used to live in Shaw in a rent-controlled apartment and had a very, very low rent. And at some point, I became a homeowner. And let me tell you, even though I knew I should buy a house and become a homeowner, it was very hard to leave that rent-controlled situation because I got to live in Shaw in a really cool neighborhood for a really low amount of money.
So the dynamics is slightly different. Now, obviously, if you go, I don't want to sugarcoat the Section 8 model. It's not all sweet and, nirvana. But once you understand it, you take the time to understand how it works. Okay. Take the time to nurture and develop relationships with the housing authority people. Take the time to understand who these tier 1 tenants, what they're looking for, and so on. To me, it's a business model that works in this crazy market called the DMV, okay, where it's so expensive and it's so hard to get cash flow. But for the most part, most people who own property in the DMV probably will tell you three things. One, I wish I started buying houses earlier. Two, I wish I kept them. Three, I wish I bought more.
That's what I was going to say. Bought earlier and bought more.
Right, but you talked about appreciation. We talked about this the other night. That DC, if you can figure out a way to make DC cash flow, what an awesome, and this is a DC-centric podcast, so this is, good information. If you can make it cash flow, what an awesome place to invest. Like, I don't know why you'd want to invest anywhere else other than Washington, D.C., because you get mega appreciation and you get mega cash flow. So, I mean...
And what we don't talk about enough, I think, is we also get mega rent growth, right? So the properties that I bought 10 years ago in the suburbs rent for more than 50% more than they did then. And in the city are renting for double what they rented for 10 years ago. And that's on market rates. That's not Section 8. That's just how much the rents have gone up in the last decade.
Yeah, it's. I did the analysis. I think it's about 3 or 4 years ago. I bought one house in Temple Hills, Maryland. This is in the mid '90s for $100K. Okay. At the same time, I bought a house up in Columbia Heights, believe it or not, for $100K. At the same time. Okay.
Was this like before the metro stop?
I've got an Oxon Hill property I bought for $100K too. Probably has.
This is probably around the metro time. Just before the metro came in. And
I think that was 1999 for the listeners, right?
But they started that construction before then. There was a lot of construction going on with the Green Line prior to that. Because I used to live in Columbia Heights. And anyway, so the point is that I bought this house for $100K at the same time, Temple Hills and Columbia Heights. Fast forward to a year or two ago, okay? The house in Temple Hills probably was, what, $350, $360, something like that?
That's about right for if it was single family.
Yeah, single family, things. And the house in Washington was, at that time, like $750,000.
Yeah, it's probably $1 million now.
Yeah, so the question, and then the rent in the Temple Hills like $2,000, and the rent in the DC one was $4,700. Okay, so I'm when you put this on a spreadsheet and you look at this, okay, you actually analyze this stuff, you realize that the real money is appreciation after you cut through the chase. I mean, $100 extra.
And the cash flow is figuring out how can we hold on to the property long enough to watch this massive amount of appreciation.
Well, but it's that you what's it called? The real money is the appreciation. And what I realized that not all areas appreciate the same. Okay, so if you're going to buy and you take a long-term view, then you don't just buy anything anywhere. You're a bit more strategic in buying areas where it's more likely to appreciate because that's what you're going to get the biggest return over the long haul. But the problem is the cash flow, okay? And so this is where it gets a little trickier. When I first started, I had a job. So the first house I got, I don't know what, this is the story. Here's the bottom line. I got the tenants from hell. I bought a house in Columbia Heights. I had the tenants from hell. Okay, I didn't know what I was doing. I just bought a house. And after all the drama that these guys gave me, I was making $50 cash flow. That's it, $50. Okay, I bought this thing for $47,000. And at that time, they were telling me I was getting ripped off. I was paying too much. I was getting duped. Okay, so after all is said and done, I'm making $50. Now, anybody in their right mind say, why in the world are you buying this house? Okay, are you crazy for $50? It's not worth it. Okay, there's no cash flow. Okay, but luckily I had a different mindset. I had a job, so I didn't have to live off this $50. Okay, but I knew that over time, this asset, being in the capital city, the capital area, is probably going to appreciate because that's how it plays out throughout the whole world. And so it's just a matter of holding on to this thing until the future. I didn't know when. I just knew it was just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, there is so I've heard it, I think, from you and from Ned, that there's a large belief amongst investors all around the world that if you invest in the capital city of a country, things are going to work out pretty well, whether it's here, whether it's London, where Joe's a little familiar with, Beijing, wherever it is, Tokyo.
Yeah, there's certain dynamics of capital cities. This is unique. There's only one, first of all, and two, that's where the money is for the most part. Three, land in capital cities is usually very restricted. And four, there's jobs there. And it's where the seat of power is. And so if you own assets in that capital city, over the long haul, it goes through cycles. But over the long haul, it tends to appreciate more so than any other place. It's more predictable than any other place in the country. And so that's where I came from, because I used to live in London.
It's interesting because you mentioned it goes through cycles. I did this math sometime in the last year where I did the calculation that if you bought a median priced house at the height of the housing bubble, right? So, and I think it was like first quarter 2007, literally the worst time in the history of the world to buy a property. If you'd bought a median priced house then and you still owned it today and it was only median priced, and if your rent just tracked inflation and only inflation, you averaged a 14% return per year. That's pretty good.
Right.
That's if you bought it the worst time in history.
Yeah.
Right. So over the long periods of time, now that's not to say every property you bought, right? If you bought in Detroit, maybe that didn't happen.
Yeah. You can't say that for every city in the country. But for the most part, you can say that for the capital city.
And DC is even more restrictive because you had the height regulations. So it's not like we can build super tall skyscrapers.
Right. New York, they'll go in, tear down a building and build a taller building to create more units.
Right.
We are a very restricted building. So lots of people don't like building restrictions.
Yeah.
Investors who own property do like them.
Also, most places you can annex the next city or next, suburbs or whatever.
Exactly. Like Houston or something.
You can't annex Maryland.
Right. Right.
They're not going to take too kindly to that.
And there's a lot of federal land and government land, exactly. And so there's
but that's
so
why you
much
also
scarcity.
See the growth in our metro area forms rings going further and further out because we have to build outwards as opposed to upwards.
Yeah. So it's a lot of sort of experience. I mean, having gone through 4 cycles, because I bought my first house in '87. And I've been through some cycles. I mean, cycles are very what's the right word? Very humbling. Okay, because when the market's hot, you're thinking you're a genius. Yeah, you think you know it all.
Everyone's a genius in a bull market.
Everyone. But it's when the market tanks. That's when you realize who's swimming naked, as they say. And having gone through 4 of these cycles. And I realized that the key to my success had to be a reliable income stream, where I knew the rent was coming in regardless, and having people who stay a long time, and so that's where everything drifted towards the Section 8 model, is because these folks, once they're in, tend to stay longer. The income stream is very reliable. I mean, it's a $25 billion program. So there's a lot of money out there that's allocated to this, and so if you can understand how it works, then you can, really leverage it to your benefit.
One thing I'd like to dig in with the Section 8 is we sort of touched on it earlier when we're talking about the Eckington property, where your 5-bedroom rent was going to be about $5,400 and change, and the market rate rent was going to be significantly different than there. And there are certain neighborhoods in DC where that market rate rent and the Section 8 rent are drastically different. It is a huge inefficiency in the market. And you're really exploiting this inefficiency.
Well, I was not exploiting it.
You're taking advantage of it.
No, I just, I understand how it. Yeah. I mean, this is not Joe's.
But I think that,
we all could do this, okay?
So I'm not using exploitation as a bad word. I think as investors, right, whether we're investing in real estate or stocks, looking for the inefficiencies in the market is where we can make the most money.
Exactly, yeah. There are opportunities to sort of get a better return than you would otherwise.
So speaking of that, so it's my understanding that it's the DC Housing Authority who's paying so the DC Housing Authority sets the rent based on the number of bedrooms and the neighborhood, right? So are there neighborhoods that, like, let's say a 5-bedroom is $500,000 in Kingman Park. I'm just throwing these out here. I don't know if these are real numbers, but that same
Definitely
5-bedroom,
not a real number.
Okay, but that same 5-bedroom is $800,000 in Columbia Heights. Okay, maybe my numbers are too low.
Rent.
Yeah,
I'm talking about when you're looking to buy a house.
Acquisition price, I mean.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Because if the housing authority has set the rent at $5,462 in both Columbia Heights and Eckington and Kingman Park, whatever, then you would want to buy in Kingman Park, because if the acquisition price is lower and the rents are the same. So would you be able to divulge what neighborhoods that inequity is?
I don't want to divulge.
I was just curious.
But this is how it works, okay? And I think I train people on this stuff. I have a joint venture program whereby I show people what I do, and they can look over my shoulders and they can replicate what I do. Because as I said, when you get 5, 10, 15, 20 applications per house, okay, you need to be in that room when you offer that home to somebody. The joy, the excitement, the happiness, it's a dream come true. And it's a very nice feeling when you know that you're doing good and helping the family. Now, the flip side to that, you need to be in that room when I'm making that call to the other 14 people. Okay, I'm saying, I'm sorry, I've only got one house.
And as a real estate agent, I am constantly letting people down. And so I feel that pain. Yeah. I'm not necessarily doing it with tenants, I'm doing it with potential buyers a lot. Because on my rentals, I usually get 2 or 3 applicants. I usually don't get 15 or 20 like you're getting.
Yeah, it's crushing because they are tired. I mean, I gave this, let me give this story. One of my tenants now, I as part of my screening process, I go to the people's homes. Okay, that's because I want to see how they keep their home. Because how they keep their home today is how my house is going to be in 3 months. So as part of the home visit, she lived in Congress Heights in Southeast, and a pretty rough neighborhood. Okay, a rough part of Congress. And she said, "Look, don't judge me by what's outside, because I can't control this neighborhood. Okay, judge me by what's inside my house." And her house is spotless, immaculate. The kids are well behaved, and so on. She said, "My biggest fear, I hate living here. My biggest fear is that my kids will get killed on the way home from school. Okay, shot, killed." So that's what's on her mind every single day living there. And she's just tired of it. She just wants an opportunity. So it's great when you offer that person the chance to move to a better area. Now, the other side is you're calling her and say, "I'm sorry. I don't have anything, so I'm sorry. You're going to have to stay here still." Okay? Tough luck.
Yeah, but, so it's not just the letdown of, oh, you didn't get this house. It's the letdown of a lifestyle getting out of that type of community into a better one.
But if you've already identified her as a tier 1 tenant, do you have like a Dr. Joe waiting list? Like, here's a standby list. Well, like, in 2 weeks, I'll have other rehab done.
I say I'm going.
So this conversation with Dr. Joe went really, really long. We actually got 2 full episodes out of this conversation. So we're going to cut this sort of off here right around the middle, and we're going to continue next week and listen to what Joe has to tell us about building communities, being an ethical landlord, and his joint venture program. We'll talk more in depth about when this conversation continues on next week's episode.
Thanks for listening to the DC Real Estate Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to contact the hosts, reach out to them at info@dcrealestatepodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you access your podcasts.